Hello. I hope you're doing great. Today I have come to talk to you about something different from what I have been saying all this time. Today I'm going to talk about a little bit about writing. You have to write a lot of things at school, especially when it comes to English. You need to write down a lot of creative writing assignments, exercises, which I'm sure sometimes you find difficult, right? Now, writing, of course, is something that comes naturally to many of us, but it's not absolutely impossible to write down some great stuff if you know how to do that, right? So that's what I'm here for today. For all those who think that they really have a lot of trouble writing down things and expressing their thoughts, this is one way how you can push yourself to write better. Well, my first video today is going to talk about descriptions. Now, when we write, we describe lots of things. We describe people, we describe places, we describe things, we describe events. But today I'm going to talk about describing a person, writing a description of a person. Now, before I get into that, I want to ask you a question, or rather, you probably are asking that question to yourself. Why do I need to describe a person? Well, for all those who read books, which I hope you actually do, you must have read books in which you have the writers describing the characters to you. And when you read the descriptions of the characters, I'm sure you have an image of that character in your mind, which is not even a real person. So that is the magic of writing a great description. Well, now that is a little tough to do, where you actually have to imagine a character in your head and then you have to describe it. But that's a longer process. But before you get into that, I think it's important for us to know, how do I actually describe a person which I can see? Now, it necessarily does not mean that it has to be a real person. It can just be a picture of a person. So that is where we are going to start from today, okay? And that's the simplest way to begin. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to show you a picture. Take a look. Yeah. Is it familiar? Well, I know that's a nasty looking pirate, and some of you may have recognized him as the pirate from the story Peter Pan, Captain Hook, right? Yes. Now, if you can see those little arrows all around him, that is just something I want you to do for yourself. Now, you don't need to write anything down. If you want to, you can, or just think of a few words to describe that pirate that you can see on your screen. Are you thinking? Well, I hope you are. Great. All right. So when you were looking at the picture of the pirate, and you were thinking about the different words to describe the pirate, what were some of the words that you could have thought of? Well, you probably talked about his hat, you talked about his hook for the arm, maybe you spoke about his beard, maybe you talked about his wooden leg, maybe you talked about his shoes, maybe you described his coat. So if you see, there were so many things that you could describe about this particular pirate. Now, if you had to write down a description of this pirate in a paragraph or more than that, you will be able to use all of these words that you thought about. But the trouble is when you are not really sure what are the different things am I supposed to describe. I hope I'm not missing out something. So what I'm going to do is, I'm actually going to give you a trick where you can put all these thoughts and words of yours in an order, and then you can actually write the description in an orderly fashion. Sounds good? Okay, let's try. Now, the first thing that you can describe about any person is the person's complexion or skin tone, the color of their skin. Now, as you know, there are different kinds of people in this world around you with different kinds of beautiful skin tones. Some are dark and dusky, some are beautifully whitish brown in complexion. Sometimes you have people who are really bright pink because they are fair and they've got fair skin. And then you have someone who is very, very dark and has got a very exotic complexion like that. So a skin tone sets one person apart from the other, and that is why you can talk about or start with the person's skin tone. Think about what the pirate was. Now the next thing that is sets anyone apart, facial features, right? Face. Everything that is in, on, and around your face are the facial features. So what are we going to describe when it comes to facial features? You can talk about the hair, forehead, eyebrows, eyes, nose, cheeks, lips, mouth, chin, and sometimes the neck. All of these things are a part of your face, and all of these are distinctly different with each person. So when you describe a person, it's very important to describe all of these features in detail. So you can talk about someone's bushy eyebrows or someone's arched eyebrows. You can talk about someone's pointed nose or someone's little button nose. You can talk about a pudgy dimple chin, or you can talk about a pointy chin like a witch's. All these facial features, including the hair, don't miss that, can actually make the person's description very, very detailed and vivid for the reader. Now, the next thing that you can add in your description are unusual marks. Apart from people having different features, some people have certain unusual marks on their body which not everyone has. Now, these unusual marks could be anything from a mole to a tattoo or a scar or a patch on their skin. Some people have discolored skin sometimes. It could be, it could just be a deformity of some kind, which is not what other people have. So they could probably have 6 fingers or a finger that is missing. So in that case, that's a distinct way of describing the person, because these are the things that will not be common with anybody else. So, well, of course, not everyone has any unusual marks on their bodies. So this is just in case you find one. The next thing that you can add in your description is the structure of the person's body. As important as the face is the structure of the body. People are tall, short, very tall, very short. They can be pudgy, they can be fat or thin, skinny, lanky, bony, muscular, swelled, well-proportioned. All these words talk about different body structures. So you can look at a picture and decide whether it's a paunchy, pudgy old man who walks like a little sack of potatoes because he's too weighty for his height, or is it a graceful, tall, slender-looking model who walks in the catwalk on the ramp? Well, these two are very distinctly different people. And when I said that, I'm sure you got a picture of that person in your mind, right? That's what words can do. So, well, the structure of the body needs to be described to a detail as well. Now, another important thing about describing a person is a person's clothes. Now, all of us wear different kinds of clothing and different style of clothing, and we need to pick out on that person's specific style of dressing. Now, each person would dress up differently, either according to an occasion, like people would wear different clothes to work and different clothes when they go to bed, or different clothes when they go for an award function. Or it could also be dependent on who the person is. Like, for example, if the person is a sports person, he would be wearing sports kind of clothing all the time. Or if the person is a policeman, he would be wearing his uniform most of the time. Or if it's like a homeless person who's poor and living on the streets, would probably be wearing torn clothing, dirty, ragged, shabby, because he does not have the resources to get better clothes. Now, these things about clothing can be described in detail. You can talk about how well the clothes fit the person. Are the clothes, formal or casual or fashionable, or are they well-fitting or ill-fitting? What fabric is it? Is it kind of winter clothing, summer clothing? Is it simple? Is it stylish? Is it a business tycoon wearing a sharp dapper suit? Or is it a poor homeless person wearing torn pants with no shoes? Clothes can actually create a great picture in a person's mind. So don't forget to describe the kind of clothes that the person wears. Along with the clothes comes the accessory or accessories. So accessories are not just worn by women, because accessories are anything that you wear along with your clothes. It could be anything from a hat or a beret or a pair of earrings, which is any jewelry for that matter, bracelets, watches, shoes, a laptop bag, a clutch, a backpack, a wallet, or just maybe like a headband or a bandana which they tie around their heads or on their arms. So all of these things are very, very clear in terms of the person's sense of dressing. So people wear different accessories according to the way they would like to dress or they want to enhance their appearance. So accessories can also be described in detail to add to the detailing of the description of that person. Well, last but not the least, to complete your description, you can always add your opinion. Now, especially if you're looking at a picture of a person, every time you may not know the person whose picture you're looking at. But when you have looked at the picture so closely and actually managed to describe everything about that person, by the end of it, you may actually form an opinion. He looks like a very professional lawyer who's ready to go to the court and fight a case. Or she looks like a very pretty model right to go on a walking ramp on a fashion show. Or someone who looks like a housewife, tired and weary from the day's work, taking care of her family and her household. Or she looks like a teacher who has probably stayed up all night correcting papers. Or he looks like a jolly old uncle who's always willing to share jokes with the people around him. These are your opinions that you can form after you've described a person, looking at the person in detail. That's your option. But trust me, that will complete your description. And when you give it to anyone to read, they will actually be able to imagine the person in their minds without looking at the picture. So descriptions are nothing but words that paint pictures. So you know what? If you thought at the beginning of this video, I don't know what she's talking about and I don't think I'm going to be able to write it, I think you must have changed your opinion by now. Well, you may or may not want to be a writer someday, but it doesn't hurt to learn how to write well, right? So happy writing, and I hope you come up with a great description. And yes, don't forget to look at pictures all around you, photographs in magazines, newspapers, pictures on your computer of your family members, and even look at people, interesting people around you like your doorman or your domestic helper or a policeman in your locality, and try and describe them too. It's a fun exercise, trust me. You can actually get better and better, and someday you might actually rattle out a great description for anyone to listen to, right? So happy writing once again. Bye.